Hey, Margie here. Did you know that something as simple as gratitude can completely change your life and really help you navigate challenging times? Well, today we're delving into gratitude with our special guest, Holly Burton. And Holly is the president and CEO of Pink Fortitude LLC and founder of the Fortitude Academy and the health and wellness website pinkfortitude.com. As a breast cancer and Hashimoto's survivor, she turned these two significant health challenges into a passion to help transform lives for women with chronic illnesses. Holly's a project management professional and holds a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University and is a certified natural health professional. She is the #1 Amazon.com best-selling author of the book Thriving in the Workplace with Autoimmune Disease: Know Your Rights, Resolve Conflict, and Reduce Stress, the first book ever to educate others on autoimmune disease as a legal disability in the U.S. workplace. She is a highly sought after speaker and wellness expert and the leading authority on autoimmune disease in the workplace. But today we're talking about gratitude and the science behind it and how it can truly be life changing and help us get through these unprecedented times. Holly gives us easy ways so that you can bring more gratitude into your life. So stay tuned.
Welcome, Holly. I am really, really excited for this podcast today because you're a person who I just adore, and I'm so excited about our topic. It's so needed today. So welcome, welcome.
Oh, and thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you so much for having me on the show. And I just really look forward to, connecting with everyone and sharing the just beautiful message of gratitude.
So this is going to be a real happy interview, everybody. But you know what? Before we get to gratitude, I always think it's important for people to know how you've gotten to where you are today, because then they can sort of appreciate your messages and just appreciate the person you are and the work you're doing in the world. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your health challenges and journey that led you to the work you do today?
Oh, sure. So I always like to kind of start before the health challenges, just so you get an understanding of where I was and the person I was before everything hit. And I was kind of that quintessential overachiever, just really climbing the corporate ladder, very successful in my career. And also I was a competitive athlete. I raced Xterra races, which are off-road triathlons. And I also raced mountain bikes. I was actually the only civilian on the Marine Corps mountain bike team. So that was kind of fun.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I just had one of those kind of lifestyles and traveled and did all that fun stuff. And on my 39th birthday, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, most girls on their birthday get maybe some earrings or roses. I got breast cancer. That was my gift. And then 2 days later, my then boyfriend, who I was living in sin with, proposed. So it was, "You have breast cancer and will you marry me?" And that just kind of started the crazy whirlwind. But I went through surgery, chemo, and radiation. And I honestly think it was the chemo that just kicked everything into high gear. And after cancer treatment ended, I was not getting better. I was getting actually sicker and sicker by the day. And the girls in my support group, I mean, they're out running the, 5K pink ribbon runs or whatever. And I'm like, I can't get out of bed. And finally, a year later, and it was just, really pushing my doctors and test after test. And finally, a year later, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition. And basically it's a very sluggish thyroid, just for layman's terms. So, some of the symptoms are a lot of fatigue and weight gain, hair loss, all that kind of fun stuff. So, so I was able to manage for probably 5 or 6 years. The symptoms were pretty bad in terms of like migraines and IBS. And I learned about this whole, like, let's have a healthy lifestyle, right? So, I started just cleaning up my diet, eating whole foods, real clean living, eliminated as many toxins from my house as humanly possible. I just all natural beauty products and all natural cleaners. So, just really started living this just, more holistic lifestyle. And, but it wasn't enough. And in 2017, rock bottom number 2 hit. Again, quintessential overachiever. One cannot have one rock bottom. One must have two, right? And the health challenge that I had, the fatigue was so debilitating. I could barely get out of bed. My doctors wanted me to come in for IV treatments, and where I worked, I actually had all of the paperwork filled out. It's under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's the Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA. And I had approved medical leave, and they just decided to illegally rescind it. So here I am making 6 figures in this, in this great job, and, in a health crisis, and I have no leave at work and was pretty much forced to resign. So that was kind of rock bottom number 2. But through all of this, my mother's wise words was, it builds fortitude, it builds fortitude, it builds fortitude. And I never really knew what that meant. She was diagnosed with Addison's disease when she was pregnant with me. And it's a very rare autoimmune condition. They told her she would never give birth to me. I would never come to terms. She'd never live past the age of 30. I mean, all this stuff. And, and I grew up, and she was, in and out of the hospitals, and periods of being very sick, periods of being very healthy. And through all of the challenges, she never once complained. And she always says, it builds fortitude, it builds fortitude. And I didn't know what that meant until I started going through my own health challenges, and, kind of realized that, yeah, the tough times, it really does build fortitude. And, it's kind of funny, like, rock bottom number 2, I was like, okay, is this better or worse than rock bottom number 1, right?
Oh no.
And, but it's funny, like you go through this stuff, and then everything just kind of gets compared. Like, I'm having a bad day, but is it really that bad of a day? Is it any worse than, some of the pains that I was going through during chemo, or, any worse than rock bottom number 2? So, it just really puts it into perspective. And, when I created Pink Fortitude, I just really wanted to honor that place of fortitude, and, build a place for women with chronic illness to, really just find their fortitude and live healthier lives. And then I found gratitude, and that just was like, the icing on the gluten-free cake.
I love that, the icing on the gluten-free cake. Oh, well, wow, that's quite something. But look how I'm such a believer, and there's always a lesson or a gift in these challenging circumstances. When we can get through those, then we see that. And it's certainly something that you have done, and you really display that. Well, why don't you tell us that let's get right into gratitude. And there's science and research behind this. So it's not just like, oh yeah, gratitude's good, but gratitude's really been proven to be so powerful. So why don't you shed some light on some of the research and why gratitude is really so important?
Oh, sure. So there's quite a few different scientific studies out there that study gratitude. It is proven that gratitude and negative emotions cannot hold the same space. So that's the first thing that I really want to share, is that, when you're in a place of gratitude, even if it's just for a moment, right? Nothing else is there. The bad stuff just isn't there. You can just be in that place of peace. But there's actually Psychology Today. There's 7 benefits of gratitude. One of them, actually, the last one I'll share, does talk about fortitude. I'm going to refer to my notes just because chemo brain sometimes gets the best of me, even still 10 years later. But it opens the door to relationships, which is awesome. It improves your physical health. It increases empathy. It helps to sleep better, which I don't know about you, but raise the roof on that one. Improved self-esteem, and improved psychological health. And then the last one is that it increases your mental strength, which of course is what I call fortitude. And there's also been studies, Dr. Robert Emmons is kind of the foremost authority on gratitude. And there have been also studies which I also like to share, that are looking at individuals with PTSD. So they looked at, and I'm just going to kind of look at it a collective because the outcome is the same for all of them. But they looked at Vietnam veterans, and this study with Vietnam veterans was in 2006. So this was many, many years after the Vietnam War. There was a study that looked at victims of 9/11 that survived 9/11 in New York. There was a study in 2009 that looked at an earthquake, survivors of the earthquake in Indonesia. And then there was also a study that looked at survivors of a mass shooting in Seattle in 2017. And so basically, these are kind of big collective traumatic events. And, looking at individuals who survive these events. And the research is all the same, is that, gratitude helped to really minimize the effects of PTSD and increase that mental strength and really help these individuals kind of get through those tough times. And what the interesting one was about it, and I'm going to put a pin in this in a second, but the interesting one was the study, the earthquake study in Indonesia. And they actually looked at the survivors over time, and kind of the peak of when gratitude hit was in about 8 months. So gratitude can have, immediate, it's not like, oh, I start a gratitude practice and I'm not going to see the results for 8 months. No, you start gratitude and you're going to immediately start feeling different. So I don't want to say, oh, it's going to take 8 months for you to feel this, but just understand that gratitude, it's not an on and off switch. It's something that is, it's a practice, it's a daily practice, and it's something that it's a lifelong practice. And, all of a sudden something's going to happen and you're going to react differently, and you're going to be like, that's the power of gratitude.
Oh, I love that. I really like how you worded that, because I teach happiness, and gratitude is such an important piece. And that's exactly what happens. It's not as though, and you have to do it. You can't just like say, oh, thank you for this. You have to really feel it and incorporate the gratitude. But once you do that, it's like building a muscle, and happiness truly soars. There's no question. Once you start slowly and surely, just like you said, it's amazing.
And so, can I give you kind of a fun example?
Sure.
So one of my, I hate saying the word triggers, but one of my triggers is poor customer service. Like if someone is poor, it's poor customer service, I'm on the receiving end, I'm just like, split pea soup coming out of the mouth, right? Like I'm just, not a fan. And last summer, my husband and I were traveling across country, and from Colorado back home to Virginia. And, so I get on the app, it's, late at night, or not late at night, but later, early evening. And I get on the app. We had been on the road since 6 a.m. We've been driving all day. And, I called ahead to the hotel, and, we're in the middle of nowhere, like Kansas or Kentucky or something like that. And they're like, oh yeah, we're fine. We have a room for you. So, and we're in the middle of nowhere. So it's not like there's any other hotels around. So we show up, and it was a good 10 minutes. There was someone in front of us and they were having trouble getting their room. So it was a good 10 minutes till we actually got, to the person. And so there was an issue. Our room was not ready. And I'm like, you told me on the phone an hour ago it was ready, right? So what we found out was that there was some kind of mutiny in the little hotel, and the staff basically just walked out. So the manager is left with like hardly anyone working, and he's trying to handle this himself. So he's like, well, we have a room, but we don't have towels for you. I'm like, okay, we'll figure this out. So we go up to the room, and the air conditioner's broken. And the air conditioner isn't just broken, but the half of the floor is soaking wet. So when the air conditioners drip, right? So we walk in, it's 90 degrees outside. It's in the middle of summer, and it's like squish, squish, squish. I don't even want to think about the mold, right? I'm just like, so, and we basically have like one little washcloth that was ours to share to dry off.
Oh no.
So I went down to the pool to see maybe like they have some towels at the pool or whatever. you know, and, and the manager was there, and, my husband, I was, asked, I was like, you happen to have any towels that came out of the dryer? And he said, no. And, and my husband was just waiting this entire time for me to just unleash on this poor manager. And I was like, you know what? Thank you for giving us a room. We just need a place to sleep. We don't need anything fancy. And that was it. I'm like, I'm sorry you have to deal with all of this. We go back up to the room, and my husband's like, what happened to you? And I didn't even realize it. I was like, oh, that's the power of gratitude. So
Wow.
it's funny how it just comes out of nowhere, right? And helps you when you need it the most. And it wasn't just a gift for me to be traveling all day and exhausted and tired and needing a place to sleep and not having to deal with the drama, but it was a gift for that poor manager who had a really, really rough day at work, and, one less customer screaming at him. So yeah, it's such a beautiful gift.
But also think about your health. Like, if you had gone crazy, your cortisol would have increased and you wouldn't have slept at all. I mean, I don't know how well you slept, but your stress level. So there would have been so many negative consequences on your body from that. But
Exactly.
and think we do that time and time again. That's one incident. The next time something happens like that. So we're constantly giving all these insults to our body. And so just by doing that and multiplying that, that's great. I love that story. That's really so important. And so have you found then the gratitude continues to build fortitude? I like that term that you coined, gratitude builds fortitude. Because right now,
Absolutely,
especially in the times that we're living through in the pandemic, I think more than ever, we need this gratitude.
And, I was thinking about that, this morning, and just, kind of like really contemplating and, praying about it, because we are in, I mean, they always say unprecedented times, but and it's not going away. I mean, it hasn't lifted. We're getting ready to go into flu season. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And, I hate to say there's not an end in sight, and it's a collective, right? It's not just, what we as individuals are going through. It is affecting us as a collective society, just everything going on right now. And, and I feel like I have a lot of really good tools to, kind of help me through some of this stuff. And I have really bad days. I still have bad days. And, and I really want to give that gift of gratitude, because it's not just us that's feeling it, but it's also our kids, and if we're feeling it, that stress is definitely, it's whether we're verbalizing it or not, our kids are feeling it too. And, one thing I want to say is it's okay to be in your feelings. It's okay to feel a little blah, or it's okay to feel a little kind of boo-hoo, but every day and every moment you have a decision, and you can make that decision that, what, I just kind of need to be in my feelings a little bit today, or what, I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to choose to not let this affect me, and I'm going to find that fortitude, and I'm going to, kind of soldier on and do what needs to be done. But it's important to have those tools to be able to, kind of make that decision. And, and especially for our kids, like, we'll talk a little bit about the gratitude challenge, but especially for our kids, like, that's why, I created one for the kids, because it's so needed right now. And back to school, if everything going on, in society today isn't bad enough, now we're dealing with back to school and all the drama around that. And a lot of our kids are schooling from home, and parents are having to make tough decisions. And yeah, it's just a really tough time for all of us. And, gratitude is so needed, because it's so easy to get sucked into the woe is me, and, to feel blah and to feel the boo-hoos. But we really need to rise above, and there's some great tools. I mean, you've got great tools. Gratitude is beautiful. And, even aside from all of that, turn it off. Turn off the news, turn off Facebook, right? And engage in something that makes you happy, engage in something that makes you calm, engage in something that gives you energy. Whatever you need at that moment in that day, just turn off all the bad stuff. I promise you, no one has died from turning off the news and Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because sometimes people say, how are you teaching happiness? But it's not happiness to be a Pollyanna. It's a
Right.
deep sense of peace and well-being, so we can go with the flow, so that we can show up. Because if we fall apart, then everyone's going to fall apart, and then we
Exactly.
can't be our best selves. But a funny thing about the gratitude, early on with the pandemic, I remember when I'd go to the supermarket, I never in my life felt so much gratitude for the people who were packing or the essential workers there. Not that I always didn't appreciate them, because I did, but not the same.
Yeah.
And it was this connection to everybody. It was just, and it would make me feel so good. And I would start talking to them and thanking them. And it was just for being, because no one knew. And I mean, still there's a lot of unknown, but initially it was very, no one knew what was happening initially. And it just made me feel so much better. It instantaneously elevated my mood and happiness. And it was just such a win-win experience. And yeah, so that's great. Why don't you tell us, and let's just go, all right. So someone is listening who's not a person that's into gratitude. What are the first steps? Like, what are the steps that you take to build a gratitude practice? Because there's actual things you do. It's not like
Mhm.
just, yeah.
Right. So, and you know what? I did the exact same thing. I was like, thank you for showing up to work today. And, thank you for being here so that we can get food. And I did the exact same thing.
Right. You felt so
So,
good.
right.
I mean, still to this day, I have such, and not that I didn't, but I just so appreciate everyone who is working and and every single person plays their role, whether it's the person who's mopping up in the hospital, or every single person has such a
Yeah.
critical role. And it's just something that I think the whole world has looked at, and a different type of appreciation than I think we've ever had for every person's role in society. So
Absolutely. So, and I start with, super easy. So, 3 things in the morning and 3 things at night. So, when you first wake up and when you go to bed. And if you're faith based, gratitude incorporates really well with any faith, that you have, to be able to incorporate that. If you're not faith based, gratitude still works and is still amazing. So it's perfect for everyone. And, so first thing in the morning and right before you go to bed, you can say it, you can write it down, you can think about it, just 3 things that you're grateful for, and like you said, just, and at first, if it feels kind of weird, just kind of list it, and that's okay. But just really start like thinking, feeling, just really embracing how you feel about that person, that event, that thing, that, whatever. And just start from there. And, if you can get to 10, that's even better. But just start with 3 in the morning and 3 before you go to bed. And there's going to be days when, you don't feel like being grateful for anything. I remember when my mom passed last summer, and I have this practice, and I'm like, okay, I know I need to be grateful because that's going to help me cope and, get through some of this. So I was like, okay. And I literally was like, I don't feel like being grateful for anything right now. And the funniest thing happened was I have this it's a yellow pencil, right? I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Office Space and like the red swing line stapler. I don't know. It was just a funny movie, and the guy that was like attached to his little stapler, I was attached to my pencil. And I remember like it was just so silly. Like that's what I thought of. I mean, of everything, right? Like I'm like, okay, what can I think of? Like my mom just passed. I'm really sad. Like I really want to think of what I'm grateful for. And I thought of a stupid pencil. Who does that, right? But I was like, you know what? I am grateful for my pencil. It helps me write. It goes everywhere I go, right? And that's okay. Like it doesn't have to be grandiose. And just start small. Start wherever you're at is the right place to start, and it grows from there. And in the gratitude challenge that I teach, it's basically like 4 steps. So the first part is really just understanding what gratitude is about and having, that attitude of gratitude and having that mindset of, you know what, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to make a choice and I'm going to be grateful. And, it doesn't matter. Life is going to happen. Life continues to happen, right? But we have a choice of how we're going to respond, right? And then week number 2 is gratitude to self. And like you said, like, if you don't fill your own cup, you can't be there for anyone else. And, you need to be your best self first. And it's not about being selfish. And, maybe it is a little selfish, but you have to fill your own cup first. And you have to just really have that place where you can be there for others. So, so the attitude of gratitude, and then, gratitude to self and all things that make you, absolutely wonderful. And one of the exercises, one of my favorite ones I'll share, is turning negative self-talk into positive self-talk. And, especially for women, like, weight, I'm sure, is always a big, like, oh, whatever. But, how do you talk to yourself? And think about how you would talk to a baby, a grandparent, a member of the clergy, right? Would you talk to them the way you talk to yourself? Yeah, that one's hard. So
That's such a good one, because truthfully, we are so nice to everyone else. We're just so kind and wonderful. And the nicest people I see are so mean and so hard on themselves.
yeah,
And that's just so destructive to their happiness and their health. There's just, and where is it getting them? So when they do that, that's such very good advice, because
it is. And just, really flipping that language and that
yeah,
self-talk to say, you know what, I am going to treat myself the way I would, with the respect and the kindness that I would to, again, the way I would speak to a baby or a grandparent or a member of the clergy, or, someone in high regard. And then the third week is gratitude to others. And this is where it gets, really cool, because, it's taking, what you have and then just being grateful for everyone around you. And, and I saw, my marriage improve, and, just absolutely amazing things happen. And then, gratitude, it's great for yourself and it's great to have, but I'm not that person, right? I think gratitude is a gift that you're supposed to share. So the 4th week of the challenge is gratitude to the world. And basically, how can I show up on a daily basis and give my gift of gratitude to someone else? And, that's when the magic really starts to happen. I remember when I was going through chemo and just still in that place of just, being depressed and throwing dishes and angry and, all those crazy emotions that come with a cancer diagnosis. And I remember sitting in the waiting room and just talking, just sitting there. I'm super introverted. So I was like, you know what? Everyone looks really, really sad. So I'm just going to say hello to the person next to me, because like, I'm just kind of over everyone being sad. I mean, it's the oncologist's office, right? It's the waiting room. It's cancer. It's not supposed to be a party, right? We're not cueing the confetti here. But so I started talking to the person next to me. I'm like, hi, I'm Holly. I have breast cancer. What you here for? And she just kind of gave me a weird look. And then we started talking. And all of a sudden, like, and people like kind of around us started joining, and the entire vibe of the room changed, and that's the power of giving the gift of gratitude. I didn't know it at the time, right? But that's the power of giving the gift of gratitude. So,
it's funny. I can relate to that exact story. Not that I had cancer, but my mother had ovarian cancer, and I would go with her to all the cancer treatments. And we were at Sloan Kettering in the waiting room, and all of a sudden we all just started talking and sharing and what we were thankful for, actually, or what's been working in certain meditations. The whole vibe changed. It was almost, I'm sitting here listening to your story saying, oh, I had a very, very similar experience.
yeah.
And it's just so true. So Holly, tell us, what are your ninja gratitude practices that you personally use?
So I talked a little bit about it. In the morning especially, I have, I think, Tony Robbins or someone calls it like the power hour. Mine's about 30, 45 minutes. But I wake up and the very first thing I do is engage in prayer and gratitude, and then meditation and reading my Bible. So that's how I get started on my day. And it really centers me. And, it's like the news is off, Facebook's off. Like it's, the first half hour, 45 minutes of my day centered around, okay, being present and getting ready to give back to others. And, it's like, it's a beautiful thing to wake up every day and be excited about like, okay, what's the gift that today is going to bring? And, and again, at night as well, kind of shorter, similar, but in reverse, going to bed. But, the other thing too is, when things happen during the day, it's easy to just get swept up in it, whether it's, something my husband says or something I hear on the news or just something that happens or something with my business or whatever. And, I really try to just stop before I react and just kind of center myself around that place of gratitude and say, okay, what lesson am I going to learn here? What gift is this? And how am I going to choose to react? And it is just absolutely, beautiful because, so often we come from a place of just reacting right away, but having that, that strong gratitude practice to be able to just pause and say, okay, let's turn this into a gift. How can I make this a gift for me and for someone else? And yeah, it's absolute magic. And you know what? I'm not perfect, right? I still react. I still get upset. Like, it's called being human.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
but it's great to know that, that you've got the tools to get through these hard situations. So.
Oh, I love that. I have practices too. So in the morning I do something called Jinsen Jitsu just to get my energy going. But then I do meditation, gratitude. But a couple of things I also do, and I'm sure you just did, I do like appreciation breaks throughout the day. I just stop and will appreciate, even if, because so often, and I noticed this, I like to bike ride. And I've noticed that when I'm in my head, I have a beautiful park near me that's in the woods that you can bike in. It's really beautiful. But sometimes if you're in your head, you don't even notice it and you don't appreciate it. So I really try to now really pay attention and savor. I think savoring also goes hand in hand with gratitude, and just really start enjoying when something good happens. Thank you. And just, just really take the moment to stop in your day, appreciate it. And it just adds so much depth to your life. And maybe you won't notice, just like you said, I really liked what, the example you gave. You're not going to notice it right away, but all of a sudden something will happen and you realize you have that fortitude. And it's just so amazing. And just when we do, because there's so much good in our life and we're wired for the negativity, so that we need to appreciate it. We need to say thank you. And the other thing I do is when I'm swimming, I love to swim, and you're really relaxed. And then I'm very grateful for my body. So I go through my hands. Thank you for these hands that I can do all this work with. Thank you for my elbows. Thank you for my shoulders. I go through my whole body. It doesn't take long, but I do that every single time I swim, because I am very grateful that there are a lot of people that can't swim, that aren't physically able. And it's just something that gives me so much pleasure. And I am so grateful, but it's a nice thing. So there's just so many ways that we can incorporate gratitude. So this is great. So if people want to know about
can I just give like one more really quick story?
Yes, I love these stories. Yes.
So you had me thinking, so it was the other month, or a few weeks ago, it was a beautiful day outside. It was like a break in the heat. It was a beautiful day. So I took my laptop outside and just sat on our screened in porch. And it was one of those days where, it was just like a perfect 75 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, and the birds were chirping, and the trees were kind of blowing in the breeze. And I remember my mom used to say with these kind of days, and she was like, this is $1 million day. I wonder what the poor people are doing. And, and I grew up in the 70s, right? We weren't rich by any means. Like, we were, very middle class, barely making it like everyone else in the 70s. Right. And, we always had, food and a roof over our heads, but there was not a lot of extra stuff back then. And, and just, I didn't realize it until that moment, like that level of gratitude that she had every single time she said that. It's not about being rich in terms of, monetary wealth. Like that level of gratitude comes from being rich inside. And, and it just like being in that moment, it just really made me realize like, wow, this is where it's at. And this is where it just makes it beautiful. So.
Oh, I love that. I guess I just want to add one thing because I keep thinking in my head.
Oh,
So I teach a happiness course, and once a month we all get together, and this just happened last night. So, and one of the things we were talking about, because it's been a long time since March, since the pandemic, and we're really talking about different strategies that help. And we were talking about relationships and how we really need to cultivate, the relationships are so important. That's one of the keys to give us fortitude and just keep us strong and keep us going. And one of the best ways that they've even shown is with a gratitude letter, and in terms of just expressing gratitude to someone else. And how when Martin Seligman, the father of psychology, did these gratitude visits, people were happier for a month afterwards. So it's just, it's so important. And this is just, and as a physical therapist, for so many years, I've seen, it's not something to belittle, like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Don't think that way, because this is equally, if not more, I think more actually, powerful than eating well, exercising. All those things are important, but if you don't have this is your basics. And it's amazing the transformations I've seen over so many years, over 35 years, when people adopt these practices. So this is just really, really something to say, if this is not sounding like you and you really don't, I can't wait to hear, once you start adopting this, what starts happening. So tell us about your challenge, how people, just because I have a link that for people they could go to. That's just,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have actually one that's free and then one that is video led, and they kind of go through the same thing and about the 4 different steps that I talked about in the 4 different weeks in terms of developing your attitude of gratitude, gratitude to self, gratitude to others, and gratitude to the world. And takes you through a daily practice and a daily challenge every single day. And the challenges themselves, like what you do every day, I mean, it doesn't cost anything. It's just gratitude, right? It's free to be grateful. And you can do it. I mean, it's obviously very appropriate for the time that we're in today in terms of social distancing and, being at home and things like that. So, it's just a great way to just, make 5 minutes of your day and just really kind of start this gratitude practice and, at the end, just saying, you know what, I'm ready to take this one step further. So.
Oh, that's great.
And one for the kids as well.
Oh, wonderful. So we'll have all the links. The one was the tinyurl.com/thegratitudechallenge, but I'll have everything in the show notes so you can just click on. And that's great that you have one special for the kids. What ages for the kids?
About 5 to 12, but I've actually had parents of toddlers do it and have, just really enjoyed it. So. Yeah.
Oh, that was so smart, because there really are different needs and different ways to incorporate that.
Yeah. And I know our kids are really feeling it these days. So yeah, they needed one too.
Oh, that's great. So is there any other last words that you want to share with everybody? You've given so many great things. And this is sometimes the simplicity, that's what I like. Sometimes it's the hinges that open big doors. And this is one of, and I didn't coin that term, that was Dr. Sarah Godfrey, but I love that. Sometimes it's just the small hinges, but this really isn't such a small hinge, but it seems like it. Like what can be easier and free, but that can have just amazing, powerful effects. But is there anything else that you just want to say to everybody?
We covered a lot. It's just every single day is a gift, and it's up to you to unwrap it and see the present inside and just, be grateful for everything that life hands you, and just, learn from the lessons and enjoy the gifts. And and thank you so much for having me. And again, my heart is full of gratitude for being here and, connecting with you and connecting with your listeners and being able to share.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm feeling so upbeat, and so you have such great positive vibes and energy that it's, as we know, energy and positivity is contagious as well as negativity, but your positivity is contagious to me. So you've just uplifted me. So thank you so, so much. And I'm excited about your challenge. And oh, I have to say one more thing to people. You have these beautiful, can we talk about your little journals that you created?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
absolutely. We have gratitude journals as
yes.
well. So
And they're very inexpensive. And sometimes that's nice to just have, you can take a notebook and you can do whatever you want, but it's so nice to have a journal dedicated to gratitude that it almost makes you do it more because you have this lovely place to write it down. And it's your special little thing. So, and they come in different colors. They're really quite lovely. So
thank you. Yeah.
that will be there. They can find that on your site as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's terrific. All right, well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
I hope you've enjoyed today's interview with Holly as much as I have, and now have some easy ways to cultivate even more gratitude in your life. All the links we talked about will be in the show notes. But besides the gratitude challenge, Holly has some amazing things. She has Camp Fortitude, which is the gratitude challenge for children. And I don't have young children right now, but this looks amazing because so many people who do have been complaining they're trying to find activities while the kids are home and not at camp. And there's so many things that she offers as easy things that you can do with your kids. And it's not very expensive. So just check it out because it might be helpful. Also, we didn't discuss it in today's podcast, but Holly is an expert on autoimmune disease in the workplace, and she has programs for employees on what their rights are, as well as for employers on what their responsibilities are. So it's really packed with great information. So if that's something that is important to you, make sure to look at it. Anyway, bye for now. Stay well, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.